Hey guys, welcome back. This is David McDarby, joined with
Danny West, Commander Enthusiast.
Yes, I'm also Commander Enthusiast, and we are back now with another Commander Versus series. We have successfully exhausted all 5 Commander 2013 pre-con decks, and we're back to bringing our own decks to the battle. Out of all my Commander decks, if any one of them was a Horcrux, this would be my Nagini. This is my clam chowder, my bread and butter to put in the clam chowder, and it is an extension of the first Commander deck, or Elder Dragon Highlander deck that I ever made, and that was Izzet the Firemind. But now it has evolved into the Paragon of the Izzet League, Melek, Izzet Paragon. As you'll see here, a lot of these cards are in Japanese. This is my, as we call, pimp in the community, so that you make things expensive or cool or the way you like it to show off your personality, like your lifeblood, your Horcrux, even though you don't really show those off. But here is Melek Izzet Paragon. It is a spell-slinging deck in the fact that it is an Izzet deck, so there's lots of blue and red spells. What Melek does, you can see on the screen right here, he pretty much twin casts all the spells off the top of your deck, but you flip him, so he's like an Oracle Modiah or Garrick's Pack Horde, but for spells.
Correct.
So hopefully you can flip the spells off the top of your library. This deck does have some artifacts and some creatures in it, because every time you flip one of those off Melek, you just want to blah and just throw it, because you don't get to do any value off your sweet 6-mana general. You know? What do you think about him, Danny?
This deck is not my cup of tea, but it is definitely yours. If there was a deck that embodied sort of who you are as a Magic player, and I think that's largely what Commander is supposed to be.
Yes.
I've played against a lot of your Commander decks, and this is the David McDarby deck.
Yeah, like a lot of people can play Melek without creatures, cast Proteus Staff, stack your deck, combo off. You can ritual storm. You see some storm cards here, but we'll get into them later. Storm, fireball people out, and just end the game immediately. I'm not all about into that. I want to have fun, interactive games of Magic that are different every time. So as you'll see here, I have some creatures in the deck. I have the original General, the new General, and another blue-red dragon. And to get them all, I have Dragon Storm, a card that has Storm, but you know, isn't as scary as some of the other cards. I'm going to get 3 dragons. They're probably not going to win the game that turn, but they're just good creatures to have. It's 9 mana. It's a lot of mana. It's Commander, though.
One of the interesting interactions that I didn't foresee, first of all, I was extremely surprised when you cast Dragon Storm for the first time when I was playing against this deck. I was like, what is going on? The Hypersonic Dragon, the one that lets you instant cast sorceries, if you have Melek in play, you can do it from the top of your deck as well as copy it, and that can create lots of fun.
Lots of very crazy things of like having a spell in the stack, cast a Ponder from your library, do some really wacky things, cast all these sorceries at instant speed. Yeah, Hypersonic Dragon adds some utility to the deck, but I just really want to have both Nimizes in play at the same time, you know, because that's pretty sweet. Okay, and we look over here at, these are some of the other win conditions. I have 4 creatures that are based off instant and sorceries, either when you cast them or the mounts in your graveyard. We Dragonauts, an old Ravblock staple. Nivix Cyclops, a new Ravblock staple, kind of. And Talran Sky Summoner. These are all cards that when you recast instant sorcery, they get bigger or they make a Drake. So I'm not going to combo you off Grape Shot style, but hopefully have a random guy in play that I can cast lots of spells and get lots of Drakes, or can somehow break through all your guys and block. I don't have a lot of creatures in this deck, so I won't have a lot of defense against your creatures. I can't block. Like, your removal can kill the few guys I have.
These guys I almost refer to, like when playing against this, they're almost like a fog suite.
Yeah.
They buy you a lot of time by creating tokens and creating blockers that give you time to draw Cyclonic Rift or to combo off and things like that. Because especially if you don't have those mass removal type answers, you need something to keep you alive long enough. And once in a while, sure, they can be a win con if the draws go correctly. But most of the time, these guys are providing either pressure with Wee Dragonauts or defense with Talran Drakes and things like that, so you can draw into your big spells and go off.
Hopefully, yeah, so they buy time, and they just look sweet, too. I mean,
they do look
amazing.
sweet.
I hope this guy doesn't get Abrupt Decay. He is the guy on the Abrupt Decay, if anybody's aware. So that's his infamous, his claim to fame. Okay, let's take a look over here. These are the 3 big spells, the Hoo Mama spells that big things happen. Epic Experiment, a little bit of played Modern, not so much anymore. Pretty much, it's Genesis Wave, but for spells. It's much worse than Genesis Wave, though, because every deck has lands and permanents. Every deck that has Epic Experiments also has lands. You don't get to do anything with those lands. So I don't have a lot of like cards I want to hit off Epic Experiment. These cards are definitely very nice. I don't want to hit creatures or artifacts, but they're in there. It just gets me a lot of value, and it's fun to cast. You never know what's going to happen. You pretty much just pump as much mana into it as possible and see what happens. That's the Izzet motto, actually.
Correct. These cards I call the put your hand down cards, because when you cast these spells against an opponent, it's gonna be a minute. Things are going to happen. One thing about these cards that's interesting is when playing against this deck, I found that these cards are sometimes the make or break between a win or a loss. If Epic Experiment, if he doesn't have a ton of mana to pump into it, and he has to do it for 6 or 7 or 8 because he's under pressure, if he misses, that's usually game over. If he hits, the train still rolls and the game goes on, and usually you can come out with a victory.
Yeah. The problem with these cards is in Commander, I want to have fun with my friends, and I don't want to make the game all about me. I play no Time Warps in any of my decks. I play no Mass Land Destruction in any of my decks. These cards are very close to the cards I don't want to play because they make the game go on for a long time, and sometimes I don't do a lot of anything. I drill around and flip all these cards off my deck, but nothing actually gets done. And my friends are not having fun, and I don't want to have a negative experience with my friends when playing Commander. I want to have fun, and I want to do neat, interesting, and exciting things and make big plays, and I want to build, casually play competitively, but I don't want to make the game all about me.
It's a fine line. I think this deck does a really good job of being fun and competitive without locking the rest of your pod out of the game, which honestly, I mean, let's face it, Commander can be political. There's a lot of times where, depending on the pod, you're only hurting yourself. You are putting a giant target shirt on and hurting yourself by doing these things. So if you're going to do those things, you need to make sure you're about to win the game, because you're going to get out of your chair pretty quick otherwise.
So I like to end the game with these or be dead, or oftentimes if I start thinking too long, I just start casting spells and just go with it. Just go with the flow. It's Commander. Have fun. Okay, take a look over at these 3 cards. These are my win conditions. Rune Chandler Spike, the old artifact from previous Standard that you hook up to a Geist Insane Trap from Invisible Stalker. Those are fun times. I still have them here. I have lots of spells, so in the graveyard it's pretty good. Usually I can't bust through unless I tap their guys or bounce them or something, but it's fun. Here we have Sphinx Bone Wand. This is a card probably 2% of people watching will know what it does. Pretty much whenever you cast a spell, you put a counter on it, an instant or sorcery, you put a counter on it, and then you shoot something for the counters on it. So it works very well with casting multiple spells in a turn, like the Storm mechanic does. But it is a 7-mana artifact that does nothing when it comes into play. This deck has very few permanents that people want to blow up, so it gets a lot of hate. I kill people with it, and I just like Harry Potter a lot, so I like having my wand in my deck.
Sphinx Bone Wand is a card that I feel like you can't get angry when you lose to it, and that's probably the hallmark of the perfect Commander card, is when it's winning you games, but nobody's angry about it. And Sphinx Bone Wand is one of those fun cards.
So I love that guy. And here we have Ignite Memories, the other Storm card in my deck, but it's a 6-mana or a 5-mana spell that probably you need a lot of mana going into it. And a player, you may have seen the famous Patrick Chapin versus Gabriel Nassif. Ignite Memories. If you haven't, go check that out. YouTube. It's an awesome card that pretty much, I get a random card from your hand, and you take damage. You go to a spell, convert mana cost. So if they have no hand, it does nothing. But if they have a lot of expensive permanents, maybe you bounce them or something, I could have fun. And you might not even die. Who knows?
We call this a fair fireball. Yeah. That's what you have talked to me a couple times about how Comet Storm is quote-unquote the better choice, or a card like that, but it's really not. That can be deceiving. Ignite Memories is a much more fun, and again, nobody's going to get angry if they get Ignite Memories out, whereas if you just dome them with
High Tide, Time Spiral, Mind's Desire, Fireball.
That's
all right.
Yawn. Nobody plays Commander because of Insanguinate. That's not the card we get excited about. So
So those are the cards in the deck. -1 card, Cyclonic Grip. This is, I think, the biggest boo card that I have in my deck.
Boo.
It's one of those. It's 7 mana, bounce everything that you don't control besides lands.
This card has been on my radar since it was printed. In terms of Commander, it's a really fine line. We've had discussions about sort of the relative power level of this card, as far as where it is, the Tooth and Nail, cards like that, where a lot of times if you cast it, the game is over, and that's not optimal.
Yeah, it's just you cast the card, and oftentimes games will end the following turn.
If you are wanting to win at Commander and you are playing a blue Commander, put this card in your deck if you have not already.
Yes.
Those are the nicest things I can say about this grotesque card.
So where I said I don't play time over time stretch, this oftentimes can be a time stretch.
In a format where upheaval is not allowed whatsoever, this is an interesting card.
Yep. So there you see my blue-red spell-slinging Melek deck. Hopefully, I'm able to cast some spells and not die to Danny's horde of green-white creatures.
I hope the opposite.
Yep. So we'll see you with some games.